cultivation, purification, rituals may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Unification of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Well, today, I'm incredibly pleased to introduce iMac, our consumer product. iPod. iPhone 4. The iPad. The iPod Nano. The iPhone 3G.
Let's pause for a minute. What you just saw was the unstoppable rise of the most valuable company on earth today, almost capable of buying Google and Microsoft combined. Steve Jobs, raised by Paul and Clara Jobs, was a high school troublemaker who gained a love for electronics at an early age. Steve Wozniak was considered an electrical genius in the 4th grade. They formed the ideal tag team. Wozniak was the technical genius and creator. Jobs, on the other hand, was a marketing and business leader. He would understand the needs and desires of the buyer and know the best solution and best way to get it to them. In an interview, Jobs goes so far as to say, "When you open the box of an iPhone or iPad, we want that tactile experience to set the tone for how you perceive the product." In the late 1960s in the Santa Clara Valley in California, a technology revolution motivated by profit and venture finance quickly sprang up. With a field of competition with such companies as Scientific American, Hewlett-Packard, Xerox, Intel, Skelby, IBM, and Microsoft, two young techies, Jobs and Wozniak, began their rise to the top with their first creation called the Apple I. Jobs made a few calls and was able to score some parts from Intel free. Wozniak stated, "Every time I designed something great, Steve would find a way to make money for us." Wozniak thought about the microprocessor, a chip that had an entire central processing unit on it. He had an insight. He had been designing a terminal with a keyboard and monitor that would connect to a distant computer. Using a microprocessor, he could put some of the capacity of the mini-computer inside of the terminal itself, so it could become a small standalone computer on a desktop. It was an enduring idea. Keyboard, screen, and computer all in one integrated personal package. "This whole vision of a personal computer just popped into my head," he said. That night, I started to sketch out on paper what would later become known as the Apple I. With this, Apple was born. Apple. A good choice. A word like apple pie, a friendliness, simple. The first feature story on the Apple I appeared in the July 1976 issue of Interface, in which the author praises the Apple I and begs for the next orange one. Soon, Jobs felt Apple should produce the first personal computer in a complete package on account of a large percentage of the Apple I's being sold as kits to build on your own. Jobs stated, "We are no longer aiming for the handful of hobbyists who like to assemble their own computers. For every one of them, there were 1,000 people who would want a machine ready to run." But the revolution continued, and in 1984 the Macintosh was introduced. The Macintosh led to the first laser printer and an early desktop publishing package. It was strong due to its graphic capabilities. It has been suggested that this led to the creation of the desktop publishing. The era between 1989 and 1991 quickly became known as the first golden age of the Macintosh. Through the next 5 years, Macintosh would continue to revolutionize by introducing softwares, digital production, video editing, and music productivity apps. By 2001, Apple opened its first retail store in Virginia and California. The same year, the very familiar iPod was introduced, which revolutionized how we listen to music. Then came iTunes in 2003, MacBook in 2006, iPhone in 2007, and in 2010, the iPad. Apple employees are true innovators who originally create products that understand the needs and desires of the customer. They focus on a core group of products and cleverly perfect them to change our everyday lives. Reaction to the Apple I was overwhelming. Hobbyists were thrilled with the ease of assembling their own computers. Jobs and Wozniak realized their factory/garage was not big enough for the demand. The Apple II followed with even more enthusiasm. Marketed in various models for 16 years, it topped 6 million units sold. The Apple II was truly the first computer many people saw. This computer was a slap to the face to all the 1950s skeptics believing computers would never be available for personal use. This machine launched the personal computer industry. Everyday homes, owning computers, quickly becoming the central information location in the household. All thanks to the Apple II and its relatively cheap price, able to find its way into the hands of millions. It also became the very first computer in widespread use in schools across the country. This was an important early opportunity for the Apple computers. By 1981, 85% of school districts were using Apple II computers in their classrooms. Apple II led the way to new ideas and never-changing workplace, school, and home life.
It happened for me when I saw people that could never possibly design a computer, could never possibly build a hardware kit, could never possibly assemble their own keyboards and monitors, could never even write their own software using these things. Then you knew something very big was going to happen.
Moving forward, Apple introduced Macintosh to an already hungry world. The early success of the Macintosh reformed the way designers and artists designed and created page layouts complete with texts and graphics, soon to be known as desktop publishing. The Mac, with its easy-to-use graphics, allowed non-computer literate designers to simulate their normal working environment. In 1985, ACOT, or Apple Classrooms of Tomorrow, began as a research project to provide teachers and students in public and private schools with individual computers. The Macintosh dominated throughout many schools across the country. Teachers soon learned to manage their school classrooms more successfully, students became more tech-savvy, and excitement grew and grew for the demand of the Macintosh. And today, iPads frequent in many classrooms across the country. Their advantages are overwhelming for students and teachers. From alleviating about outdated material, note-taking, and expensive books, the iPad solves all of these problems. In an email interview with Katie Atlas, a computer teacher and specialist at Highland Catholic Middle School in St. Paul, Minnesota, she states why her classrooms use iPads. From a tech support point of view, Apple is a lot easier to maintain and repair. We also wanted something that would allow our students to create using a wide variety of digital media. We also realized that schools are far behind in technology compared to the way that our students live their lives outside of school. Finally, students who need extra support due to learning disabilities have one more tool to help them fit in as a regular student. Even educator and coach Mr. Dave Zebarth of St. Thomas Academy's football team talks about his use of the Apple.
Actually, we use our Apple computers in a number of ways. All of our stuff, all of our film goes online, and we share it with other schools, and we get theirs online. And then we have a program called Huddle, which is allowed to be used with our Apples. And we can, anywhere we are, access it, and all of our students can, all of our players can access it. So it really has kind of revolutionized, I think, the way in which we coach, and everyone is doing that.
Adding iTunes to the iPod concept, again, changed our lives and how we listened and obtained music. It seems as though every Apple product since has reached consumers with an appetite to change their life with ease and organization. The Apple era has been unfolding before our eyes for decades. A revolution without conflict, a revolution without guns, but a revolution that has changed our everyday lives in the way we learn, work, and communicate.
And I think we're just at the early stages of this tool, very early stages. And we've come only a very short distance. And it's still in its formation, but already we've seen enormous changes. I think that's nothing compared to what's coming in the next 100 years.